My grandmother collapsed at my college graduation. Not from pride, not from the heat. She collapsed because of the man standing next to my father in the receiving line. I didn't understand what was happening at first. One moment she was clutching her program, the next she was grabbing my arm so hard her nails left marks. Her eyes were fixed on my father's college roommate, Daniel, who'd flown in as a surprise to celebrate with us. They hadn't seen each other in 30 years. My grandmother didn't faint. She just went completely rigid and whispered something I couldn't hear. Daniel's face did something strange too. Not guilt exactly. More like a man watching a wall he built a long time ago finally start to crack. They took my grandmother to a side room to sit down. I told everyone she was overwhelmed. Heat, emotion, the crowd. Daniel quietly excused himself to his rental car and drove away without saying goodbye to anyone. My father didn't notice. He was busy with photographs. That night, my grandmother asked me to sit with her in the hotel room. She held both my hands and told me she needed to tell me something before she lost her nerve. She said she recognized Daniel from a photograph she had kept in a box under her bed for 22 years. She told me about my aunt. My father's younger sister, Renata, died when I was 3. I was always told it was a car accident, a wet road, a guardrail, a river. No other vehicle involved. I had no reason to question it. Nobody talked about Renata much. There was a photo of her on the mantle and a silence around her name that I learned early not to disturb. My grandmother told me Renata had been seeing someone in the months before she died. Someone older, already married, who had told her he was separated. She was 24. She believed him. When she found out the truth, she tried to end it. He didn't accept that easily. My grandmother had found letters in Renata's apartment after the funeral. She never told my father because she couldn't prove anything and didn't want to destroy what was left of the family with accusations she had no way to substantiate. She put the letters in a box. She kept the box. She looked at the photograph in those letters for 22 years. The man in the photograph was Daniel. I sat there on the edge of that hotel bed and I didn't say a single word for a long time. The next morning I called Daniel. I didn't tell him what I knew. I just said it was good to see him and asked if he remembered Renata. There was a pause that lasted too long for an innocent man. He said, "Of course, terrible tragedy. Your father never really recovered." His voice was smooth, practiced. That was enough for me. I went to my father that afternoon. I sat him down in the hotel lobby and I told him everything his mother had told me, and then I told him about the pause on the phone. My father is not a man who cries easily. He sat completely still while I talked. When I finished, he asked me to give him the room. I waited in the hallway for 40 minutes. When he came out, his eyes were red, but his face was set. He told me he was going to handle it. He told me not to contact Daniel again. I asked him what handling it meant. He said it meant that some things had been allowed to stay buried too long, and he was going to make sure they didn't stay buried anymore. He flew home that night. I learned later that he drove directly to the county where Renata's accident happened and requested the original police report, something my grandmother had never done because grief had made her feel like reopening it would only deepen the wound. The investigation was quietly reopened 4 months later. I don't know everything that happened in those 4 months. My father doesn't share details with me yet. What I know is that Daniel no longer works at the firm he built over 30 years. What I know is that my grandmother finally moved the box from under her bed. What I know is that at Renata's grave last spring, my father left fresh flowers for the first time since her funeral. He stood there for a long time before he walked back to the car. I didn't rush him.